You've probably tried to become more disciplined. You set the alarm, you wrote the goal out, and you white knuckled it for 2 weeks. You tried very, very hard, relying on willpower. And then something happened, and you're right back from where you started. And if you're like most men I've talked to, you're starting to wonder if you're the only person going through this, and if there's something broken inside of you. Let me reassure you, nothing's broken. I mean, besides sin, we live in a fallen world. That's definitely something. But there's a way that you can become more disciplined that goes against conventional wisdom of our world today. And when I first understood it, it just radically changed how I viewed discipline in general and passions and pursuits and our desires. And willpower is not the mechanism for lasting discipline. It never has been. You might be able to do that in one area of life. You might be able to do it for a set period, but eventually willpower runs out. And in this video, I'm going to show you the exact mechanism that I teach my clients, that could drastically change your life. One that a Scottish preacher discovered in 1817. And by the end of this video, you'll have a practical way to implement it starting next week. I don't know who said it. It might have been Tim Keller in his book, and I'm sure a lot of people have said it before, but desires are not bad. We are made to desire things, to pursue things. Desires in and of themselves are not wrong. We just have to understand we need to enjoy them within the confines of how God enabled us to enjoy them. A desire to be healthy is not a bad thing. A desire to grow successful business, again, is not a bad thing. A desire to provide for your family, to have a happy family, is not wrong. Those are good things. Stewardship, love, growth. The problem is when a good thing becomes an ultimate thing in your life. When it starts to overcome everything else. When it stops being a desire you steward and starts being a desire that owns you. That's when it does damage. I learned this the hard way, not from a book, but from the hockey rink. I played competitive hockey growing up, started at the age of 5, as all Canadians do. As soon as you learn how to walk. I mean, I could walk before I was 5. But you play hockey when you're from Canada. And I played at a competitive level all the way growing up. And there was a competitive edge or competitive drive to this, which is not wrong. I want to be good. I want to get to the next level. Once I quit playing, I had a desire to keep being competitive. And I got into working out. I got into fitness. I started to pursue CrossFit. And I had some old injuries, limitations that prevented me from doing all the CrossFit moves when I first started. I'll never forget this. The first CrossFit I ever did, I looked at online and looked at the weights, and it was overhead squats. I was like, okay, well, so the ladies' weight is 115 and the guy's weight was 155. I was like, okay, I can do this. I did the ladies' weight and I couldn't walk for 2 weeks. I was very humbled. But then I was also captivated by this new thing in my life. My drive, my passion, a desire to become better at this. So I trained and trained and trained. And one day I went to the gym, and this pursuit, this drive to become the best I could possibly get at this caused me to get injured. I lifted a weight just past my knees with a deadlift without warm up. I had just PR'd the day before in the same lift, and I felt a pop in my back. I crawled my way out, almost did everything but crawl. I tried not to crawl, packed my 6'6" frame into our Chevy Cobalt. My wife and I were newlyweds, and we had a Chevy Cobalt, and I couldn't walk for 2 weeks again. And I didn't understand at the time, but my desire, my pursuit for this thing had become an ultimate thing. And at some point, it stopped being about my health. It became a vehicle to find my identity, my significance in my achievement. How strong could I get? How hard could I push? How high could I position during the Open each year for CrossFit? Desire was still there, but it had shifted. It was no longer a stewardship vehicle to steward my body, to take care of my temple. I was going after something else, something I wanted to prove. My desire had overcome my actual health. My pride had caused me to almost break my back in the pursuit of finding significance and value in this thing. You see, what we're talking about today can go for both good habits and bad habits, good disciplines and laziness, drive, and complacency. And the thing you need to look at is, what's the motive behind what you're pursuing? What's the heart behind what you're pursuing? A good thing can become an ultimate thing, like it has in this instance and multiple times in my life. And subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more stories. I'll be sharing more of these. When a good thing becomes an ultimate thing, it will eventually become a destructive thing. I didn't understand this at the time, and I didn't understand it for many, many years. I had to be humbled over and over and over again. But I want to share this to help you avoid doing the same thing. The mechanism works in both directions, as I mentioned. A good desire that goes wrong and destructive habits that won't let go. This is where men who struggle with the obvious stuff find their entry point. Now here's where things get interesting, because I know most people watching this probably aren't struggling with good habits that went sideways. They're struggling with habits they know are destroying them, slowly, like a slow poison, and they can't stop. And the same mechanism explains both the good disciplines that become an ultimate and the bad. And really, good disciplines, good practices, good things, good parts of creation that become an ultimate thing in your life. Doom scrolling, you know you're wasting time. You've told yourself you're done with it 100 times, and maybe you deleted the app, maybe you took a fast, but when you get back on your phone, you just go through it again. Cheap dopamine, quick hits, the shortcuts, the things that feel like relief but leave you empty by 9 p.m. Overindulging in food and drink, not because you're weak-willed, because something in you is looking for something, and those things temporarily deliver it to you. Willpower says, fight harder, just stop, use more force. And for a while you do. You try harder, you white knuckle it, you say, this is the last time. Tomorrow will be different, next week will be different. I'll try that program, I'll try that challenge, and I'll be done with it. Until the day you don't, because force never works long-term on a desire. You can't suppress it. You can suppress it, but you cannot remove it by force alone. The heart is never empty. Something is always sitting on that throne. So then what do you actually do? You're probably thinking to yourself, Matt, you're listing out everything I'm struggling with, or I know I want it to be different, so what do I do? This is a common question in a lot of my short form videos on YouTube or Instagram. What do I do with this? How do you get rid of something you can't force out? Thomas Chalmers answered this question over 200 years ago, and almost nobody is talking about it. 1817, I'm going to read this out. Thomas Chalmers, a Scottish minister, preaches a sermon called, in around that time, Expulsive Power of a New Affection. And in it, he makes one of the most precise diagnoses of the human heart I've ever encountered. He says, you cannot drive sin out of the heart by direct opposition. The heart is always revert. The only thing that works is a superior pleasure, a greater love that actually displaces the lesser one. So think about this in plain language. When you try to quit something, like really quit it, what do you typically do? You try to stop, you create rules. You build systems around restriction. And I'm not against systems. I'm a big advocate of systems and disciplines. But Chalmers is saying that's not the main mechanism to rid yourself of these things. The mechanism is displacement. The heart cannot be emptied. It can only be redirected. When something greater occupies the throne of your heart, the lesser things lose their grip. Hebrews 12:12 says to fix your eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. Not try harder to stop looking at other things. Fix your eyes on something better. The distraction doesn't have to be fought. It has to be out-competed. So there's an old hymn that captures this. Turn your eyes upon... I just started singing it for a second. It's a good song. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full of his wonderful face. And the things of earth will grow strangely dim in light of his glory and grace. You can't out-discipline a distraction. You have to out-love it. Romans 7. Paul writes in Romans 7 that he does the things he doesn't want to do and doesn't do the things he wants to do. He calls it a war within. And James, basically you're at war inside yourself. I think it's James 4. There's another verse I should have cited here. So this is not a person without discipline. This is a man who wrote half the New Testament. And his diagnosis of the problem lines up exactly with Chalmers, that will alone is not the answer. Psalm 37:4. Delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. Most people read that as a promise about outcomes, but there's another layer. When you delight in God, your desires get realigned. The heart that genuinely pursues him starts wanting different things, not because you forced it, because affection redirected everything else. Matthew 22:37. The greatest commandment, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. The entire Christian life is built on a love, not a rule, not a regimen, a relationship that reorders everything by being first. And again, this is not to say you shouldn't have disciplines, you shouldn't have structure, systems. But if you build structures and systems and have disciplines without this foundation of obedience, of love for God, it's going to keep crumbling down underneath of you. Every productivity system, every discipline book, every habit coach, they start with behavior. Do this, stop doing that, build this routine. And those things are not useless. They're not fruitless. But if you build them on top of a disordered heart, they are temporary. The foundation keeps collapsing because the foundation is wrong. Chalmers says the work starts at the level of affection, what you actually love. Fix that and the habits take care of themselves. C.S. Lewis said it this way, and I said it in my last video too, but it really is the heart of this. We are half-hearted creatures fooling about with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us, like a child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at sea. The problem is not that you want too much, you have aimed too low. So here's the Monday morning exercise. This is what I want you to do. Not someday, Monday morning. Before you open your email, before you look at your phone, before you do anything else, spend 10 minutes asking yourself one question. What do I actually love most right now? Not what you say in church, if someone asked you. What your calendar and your actions say. Where does your mind, your time, your energy go without you having to think about it? That's your current greatest affection. And if it's not God, if it's your business, your performance, your approval, your comfort, it's a diagnosis of what's on the throne of your heart. And now you know what you're actually working with. The next question is, what would it look like starting this week to pursue God with the same energy you're giving that thing? Not to stop giving energy to your business, not to stop training, but to put God first in the order. To make your morning about Him, give Him your first fruits before it's about anything else. To build the one affection that actually has the power to reorder everything underneath of it. So that's the mechanism. And it's a lot simpler than another habit system. And when I say simple, I don't mean easy. You have to die to yourself. You have to put on Christ, die to your flesh. It's just a lot more difficult than picking up your phone, earning your dopamine. So I hope this was beneficial to you as it was to me when I first heard about it. By the way, you've probably heard this before, but Man on a Mission is a program where I help Christian entrepreneurial men build unbreakable discipline, get unstuck, using my Mission 5 framework to build a discipline on top of Christ, make Him your greatest affection, so that you can stack on top and be disciplined and consistent leader in every area of life. You see, the problem is not that. The problem is not for most of you that you're not disciplined. You're just disciplined in one area. And the reason you're disciplined in one area is because that's your passion, that's your pursuit. Maybe you're really disciplined at knowing all the stats of your favorite sports team. Maybe you're disciplined at waking up early every single morning and going to the gym because that's become your greatest desire. What would it look like if you put God first, if you read the Bible every single morning? Physical training is of some value, but what's the verse? Spiritual training is the ultimate? Definitely paraphrasing. So that's what I want to help build. I want to help you become a consistent person. So you're consistent action because you already know who you are and whose you are in Christ. And you can take consistent action in your health, in your business, in your relationships, regardless of your circumstances. So there's over 520 people who have applied already. Over 2,200 people are on the notification list. So if you want to apply, we're almost halfway sold out for the next intakes in June, the end of May. If you want to apply, I invite you to do so that you can build an unbreakable discipline and really steward everything God's entrusted you. If you found this beneficial, I invite you to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment below of your biggest takeaway. I try to read all of them. And as always, until next time, earn your dopamine.